Hi guys, how are you? I hope everyone is safe and healthy and living, trying to live to their best potential. Again, you get to see Jalen in the informal setting, no suits or bow ties or anything in that nature. So the story I chose to discuss was from Black Boy and Multicultural Reader number 2. It was more of the longer from Black Boy story, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this piece. And I think a question that I think is worth asking and thinking about during this discussions: why does right's attitude toward white people worsen over time? Right. And I think that's good to consider, considering a lot of the ideas that's discussed in this work. And I want you guys to think about, as I discuss, like a thing about the way we hear stories and the way we and the way that influences the way we look at people, so on and so forth. I think the story again like beautifully illustrates the motif of racial injustice, right, in um America during this time. So I think a quote, just pulling from the text, on page 63, it stated that then I remembered that these houses were the homes in which lived those white people who made Negroes leave their homes, in which lived those white people who made Negroes their homes. And he said something after that that he wanted to rush back to the safety of the black faces he knew. Um, this was when he was trying to sell Betsy. And I think this emphasizes the fear of being in certain places of cities because of how we look, right? And I think it's a two-way street, black and white, right? I think when um, we think about this, we think about the general idea of like why a black man is nervous or scared in more of a suburban setting, and why white men um, are more unsettled and more anxious in a more urban, right, urban environment. So I think this connects to when the boy said he wouldn't sell Bessie because she was white. I'm kind of curious of what do you guys think about this section of the story? Like, what do you think it's emphasizing? I'm going to tell you my perspective, but I would like to hear everybody else's. You can comment under the video. I would love to hear your guys' ideas on this. I think it shows the antagonistic relationship between blacks and whites during this time, and like emphasizing too, like if we look at today, like there is still some form of antagonistic relationship between black and whites. And I think this builds on the idea of what we hear about certain races, right? In the story, which I think is a overall general idea, right, and which I discussed in the beginning of this discussion, is the way we listen to stories and how it influences the way we look at people, races, ethnicities, and excuse me, and so on and so forth. In the story, he hears stories um, of how horrid white people treated the blacks and did things to African Americans, and it made him feel victimized in this society. It made him feel like a target in a sense, right? And in his words, he said he felt like a powerless man, and a man that is violated by his will. So I think thinking about this, it goes to the bigger idea of how stories we hear influence the way we look at people, right? And I think when we hear these stories, we make their story on everybody throughout that race. Make that make more sense. What I mean is, like, for example, if a white officer killed a black man, we pose all white officers to be young black male killers, right? And dirty cops. Vice versa, even with a black guy shooting a white cop, or a black guy shooting a white man, or just you know black crime, right? We assume that every black male is a threat or a danger, right, to society. Um, I think a good thing to think about is, why do we let these stories influence the way we look at races, right? I think that's something to really think about. um, just thinking beyond the story. And I think too, thinking about this idea of how we see people, why is it that we think that there is no sense of this in modern society? Um, I've heard people say things like, "Oh, um, I don't trust that. Oh, f white officers. They killed black people. They do this. They do that." Okay, not all officers kill black men, right? Um, and vice versa. Not all white men kill black people. So I think this is a like societal, like we have normalized this mentality of like all white men are black killers and all black men are killers and like a danger. So I think that's really good to consider. And I think too, this is a beautiful piece to exposing to our students when we teach them, because it gets them into that idea of social justice learning, and really thinking about, right, the world they live in, right, and especially I think this would impact both our white students and our African American students. Um, so I think a final question I have for you would be: would you teach this book to your class, and why? Like, what theme? Like, what did you take out of it that you think your students would appreciate and learn better about the world and like the social climate that they live in today? Um, but yeah, thank you. That was really the discussion, because Dr. Macro said she wanted something from 5 to 10 minutes. And I don't want to overdo the video, but again, I did ask 3 questions. I would love if you guys could respond to me. I would love that. I would love to have an interaction. I would interact back with you guys, comment under, and just like start discussing this, because I think this is a really powerful work that deserves discussing. Um, but yeah, you guys take care. Thank you for listening to me.